Alright, here I am at the Davison Road railroad crossing here in Flint, Michigan. Now this railroad crossing right here is actually a really neat and classic crossing that I've actually toured before, owned by the Lake State Railway Saginaw subdivision, which this line right here is the extension from Plymouth all the way up to Saginaw, Michigan, owned by the infamous Class II railroad known as Lake State Railway, unlike down south between Plymouth and Toledo per se, where it's still owned by CSX today. Now, this crossing right here, obviously you can see it features quite a bit of like historical things and leftovers from the CSX days, the early CSX days, and the C&O days. Now to start off this railroad crossing, let's talk about a little bit of history. Right here, right at this gate where I'm standing right here, used to be an old Buick plant, which was linked to the General Motors plant of Flint, Michigan. And it was here up until 2010 where it got demolished due to General Motors going bankrupt. And now it's just a little empty lot where sometimes they would store cars way back there from the General Motors plant from CN Bristol Yard. Since Lake State Railway, ever since they acquired this line, they tried acquiring as many of the old things that CSX used to have as they could and reopen some of the industries that they used to serve. This being one of them, even though it wasn't as prominent as it was before. So this used to be owned by the, well not owned, but like this section of the line used to be a major auto rack drop-off industry per se, and this which also resulted in this crossing formerly having 5 tracks. Yes, it used to have 5 tracks, 3 of which just used to be storage sidings for like auto racks and like traffic control and such. But ever since the shutdown and the slow decline of traffic along this line, it has now been reduced to 2 tracks in this super wide grade. However, when Lake State Railway acquired this line, they spared so many of the classic CSX and C&O stuff. One of the examples is this crossing, which I'm going to tour, as well as many old C&O era searchlight signals, which I will get to in a bit. So, I guess with all that said, in this video you guys will be seeing me touring all the equipment that this crossing has right here, and I'm going to show y'all some of the scenery around, such as the track views and the history which I just explained. And at the very end of the video, I am going to show you guys what this railroad crossing looks like in action. Now, I guess with all that out of the way, let's get on to it. So for the first signal right here, this has a Rayco cantilever. And here's the emergency information, which Lake State Railway ended up replacing a bunch of the dot tags on this line, or putting blue pieces of tape where their old phone number information used to be. But the dot number is still 232-363J. Now, worth mentioning, I did have an old tour video of this crossing up, which I will leave in the description if you... which I will leave the link to in the description if you guys want to watch that, but it will be unlisted, so you can't really find it anywhere else other than, you know, the description, because this is going to be my remaster tour, even though there has hardly been any changes to this crossing ever since I last been here, but there are some which I will explain as I go on. So yeah, so that's the cantilever and dot tag. Now for the gate mechanism, this has a GRS Type D gate mechanism, still with the WRS rebranding, left over from the C&O days, sitting on a WRS based mast, fully original WRS setup too. And the gate features some Ricoh incandescent gate lights, and there is a wind guard on this mast, as you can see, or wind guard, whatever you want to call it. And speaking of masts, if you look on the cantilever up here, there is an old C&O dot tag with the same dot number, which is pretty neat. Really tells the history of this crossing from the C&O days. And for the mast lights, we got a mix of Western Cullen Hayes 8-inch lights and a pair of Safetran 12x24-inch incandescent lights, all of which are on a Rayco light bracket, as you can see. Now, none of these mast lights right here are actually original, because I believe all the Rayco lights that are originally on this cantilever were either swapped out with these ones, or were like wrecked or something happened to them, so they put these front ones on ever since those ones like fell off or went out or whatever. Or it was always like this, who knows. CSX back in the day was quite sporadic when it comes to their equipment setups. But yeah. And for the overhead lights, this has 2 pairs of Modern Industries 8-inch lights, also all incandescent. Quite neat to see all these still here. And these are all sitting on a WRS light bracket, as you can see. Quite the smorgasbord and salad of equipment on this old cantilever, all of which the equipment here is old too. And for the bell on this one, this has a General Signals Type 1 electronic bell set on default pitch. Now, this was installed between 1995 and 2005 by CSX, and it's still loud and healthy, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, that right there is the first signal. Quite a nice Frankenstein signal made up by both CSX and C&O. Still standing here under Lake State Railway's maintenance and ownership. So yeah, I guess that said, let's go ahead and walk over all the way across to the next signal, which features more classic equipment, plus some more modernities mixed in with it. So let's go ahead and get over to it. And here we are. This is the second signal, and it's kind of inconvenient since there's two giant telephone poles in the way. So yeah, I gotta go back over here to get this crossing in action, but oh well. So yeah, here's the second signal, which is somewhat similar to the first. So for this one, this has another Rayco cantilever, and here's emergency information once again with the same dot number. And if you look over here, there is another old C&O dot tag, which is completely faded, as you can see, because it's made out of that papery material, but you can still see the outline of CO and some of the numbers, which is quite neat. So yeah, and the gate mechanism here, this has an Invencies rail gate mechanism, which as you can see has been heavily graffitied ever since I was last here. This is also sitting on another WRS based mast. Now I believe this gate mechanism replaced another one of those GRS Type Ds back in, I would say, the early 2010s by CSX. Since this line was actually bought out or leased out by LSRC back in 2019. But yeah, and the gate lights on this one are NEG LED gate lights, and there's also a wind guard on this mast, which is nice, keeping it safe here. And if you look closely, you can see one of the gate lights are hanging on for its dear life. Now, speaking of gate lights, and speaking of like gates in general at this crossing used to have a really weird flaw back in the day where instead of the flashing gate lights over here, the bottom two, which flash back and forth, instead of flashing back and forth, they would flash in unison, on and off, both at the same time. And later on, it would be switched over to the other gate where both of those would start flashing, you know, in unison. But ever since then, I think LSRC has been coming over here and fixing up those little flaws with this crossing, but you know, figured I would point that out because there was a couple times where I filmed this crossing when that gate light glitch was still there. And also, back in the day, well, not back in the day, this was about a couple years ago now, I have actually caught this crossing malfunctioning one time. So one time on a very windy day when either Z127 or Y102 went through here, this gate right here actually got caught on one of the overhead lights while it was going up while the crossing was deactivating because the wind pushed it into there, which caused this gate to get stuck and for the crossing to malfunction for hours. And I do still have that video up, so if you want to watch it, I'll also leave a link down in the description below to that video if you guys want to check that out after you're done watching this one. But yeah. So yeah, back to the crossing equipment itself. For the mast lights on this one, this has two pairs of Safetran 8-inch lights, all incandescent, all sitting on a Rayco light bracket. I would say these are a pretty fitting replacement for the Rayco lights because these technically hold the same exact design as the later gen Rayco lights. And for the overhead lights on this one, this has two more pairs, I believe. Yep, two more pairs of Modern Industries 8-inch lights, also all incandescent. And as you can see, one of them right here is missing the visor. Now, I don't think this was related to the malfunction, the gate malfunction that I mentioned a little bit ago on this crossing, to where they had to remove it when they were fixing it because, well, the visor was still there for a good amount of time after the malfunction was fixed. But yeah, the visor must have fell off of that light over there and they never put another one on, mainly because, well, parts are pretty scarce for these old lights anyway. And these are all sitting on a WRS light bracket. But yeah. And for a bell on this one, this has another General Signals Type 1 electronic bell set on not low pitch, default pitch. Low pitch though. This bell did actually sound pretty sick one time when I was filming this crossing. It was actually earlier this year in March when I was watching LSRC Y101 go through here. This bell was pretty sick due to the rain and moisture in it recovering from the winter, but these bells, I'm pretty sure they're healthy now. They're back to their healthy state. So yeah, that right there was all the equipment to show here for Davison Road in Flint, Michigan. Here is the relay case sitting at milepost 32.4, and if you look over there, there is the old CSX sticker that still remains on the relay case. There's also another one on the side that reminds the signal maintainer that they checked all connections, terminals, and buses inside the case. But yeah, that's the bungalow for you. And as you can see, to fit the classic vibe, they connected it to the old telegraph poles that are up here, which are still extending all across the lines. Now, if you LSRC rail fans haven't heard already, there's been a guy stealing some copper off of these telegraph wires north of here. So I hope you guys catch them soon because, well, these are actually still active. You don't want to steal the equipment off of these. So yeah, I guess that said, let's go to take a look at the track view. Down there is heading north towards CP South McGrew and eventually to McGrew and Coldwater Yard. And you can see another crossing down there at Lee Street and Western Street. I might do a remastered tour on that one, but I already done 2 already, so maybe not. So yeah, and down there is heading south towards a few more crossings at Robert T. Longway Boulevard and East Court Street, facing right at CP North Kearsley and South Kearsley. So you can see South Kearsley down there. And you can see North Kearsley right here, which discards the CN to LSRC transfer track that Y101 and L306 takes. So yeah, there's the searchlights one more time. You can really see a lot down there due to how wide open this is, due to the fact that this crossing used to have 5 tracks when the old Buick plant was still here. So yeah, that right there was all to show for the Davison Road Railroad Crossing in Flint, Michigan. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and hop over to the other side and see what this crossing looks like in action. Here we go. Guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this railroad crossing tour, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and let me know what kind of crossings I should tour next. More classics like this one or more modernities or whatever else, put her in the comments below and I will be open to your suggestions. But for now, wherever I may go next, I hope to see y'all trackside. Over and out.